All right. Hello. Good evening. Good morning. Good noon. Depends on what time you're watching this. I'm just gonna share this so that we have. Ano. All right. So this is the video lecture. It's been a while since I did this, huh? So this is the video lecture that I'll be providing you for your lesson 8. Okay. Starting with John Locke, as promised. Okay. So as promised. Anyway, okay. So um for this lesson, it's actually a very short lesson to begin with. I'll just discuss the details when it comes to our understanding of John Locke. So before we start, let me just show you a short rundown of what uh, political spectrum is. I'm sorry, I'll be writing no sa dito na lang. Ayan. So, if you take a look at this, there in this aspect of understanding John Locke, you see left and right, no? So, in essence, wait lang. Hindi ako magaling mag-draw pagdating dito sa in essence, why am I saying this? So, we have liberal and we have conservative. So this is what we call now, wait lang, dito, conservative. Conservative. Yeah. Now this is what we call now our political spectrum. Now in politics, uh, let's just color this black right here. There we go. Political spectrum. Why am I sharing you this? Because we will be understanding what liberal thoughts are, right? And in essence, liberal thoughts were given or taught by John Locke himself. Now, there's this thing called the status quo when it comes to understanding our lesson. The status quo is what we also know as the current state of affairs. And when we talk about current state of affairs, yung nangyari or nangyayari sa current state noon or yung lipunan noon. Now, during the time of John Locke, the status quo were heavily reliant upon a more conservative aspect of understanding. So all laws, all rules, everything that is happening is towards this conservative aspect. In understanding the political spectrum, when you are left-winging or if you're liberal, you challenge the status quo. So you think there's something wrong with the status quo. So kaya nga sinasabing liberal because you want to change no the aspect of law. You think there's something wrong with the current status quo, so you need to challenge that status quo. And when you are conservative, you need to maintain the status quo. Ibig sabihin, you think walang mali sa status quo. So when you understand this, therefore, if you're a conservative, you don't want change. You don't want, radical change. You think there's nothing wrong with the system. So what you need to just do is to maintain the status quo. So in the essence of understanding John Locke and relating it to natural law, John Locke was the champion of liberal thoughts in this aspect. And makikita natin yung kanyang great contribution later on. Now, what do we mean when we say liberal thoughts? So in liberal thoughts, in the aspect of the political spectrum, by the way, this is just a very short, this is a very summarized political spectrum. Kasi in politics, mas marami pa yan. Pero ito lang ang gagawin natin dito. Para hindi naman kayo politics major or political science major. Anyway, so here's the thing. When John Locke was giving us an idea of what philosophy is supposed to be, it's about this thing, no? The maintenance or the um the basis for morality is supposed to be reason. And reason being the basis for morality, John Locke also wanted to know that there are three important things or there are three important rights, which is life, liberty, and property. And he calls this as natural rights. Okay, also known as his natural law theory. Now, in essence, these natural rights would be very much important to understand because these rights will be the basis of his entire understanding of what natural law is. So, ito muna, no? Ito yung introduction natin sa lesson na ito. So, let's now try to um, go to the next slide right here. Ay, hindi pala natatanggal to. Saglit lang. Erase mo natin lahat to. So, who was John Locke actually? No? Um, John Locke was an English philosopher who championed liberal ideas or liberal thought, being the founder of what we call now modern liberal thoughts. He pioneered this idea of natural law, social contract, religious toleration, and of course the right to revolution that actually proved essential to both the American Revolution and the US Constitution that followed. In fact, majority of the contribution of John Locke was his main concern of natural rights of people. Siya yung nag-develop itong social contract theory which says that in a society, everyone has a role to play, and this role to play is very much important because if you are a leader, then you need to provide your constituents the basic fundamental rights of life, liberty, and property. Yun yung kanyang basis mamaya. So before he became this, he was actually a person who was kinupkup siya ni Anthony Ashley Cooper, who was a first Earl of Shaftesbury. Now, an Earl is a ano yan, royal family yan. I mean, royal position yan. If you are an Earl, if you are an Earl in the day, syempre, ano ka, part ka ng royal family. So, of course, nung kinupkop siya ni Anthony Ashley Cooper, he suggested that Locke move to London with him to become part of his household. And of course, during that time, the offer was really hard to resist. And once part of Cooper's, he became now part of Cooper's entourage. And there and then on, Locke began to participate in many dealings like scientific, educational, religious, and political debates of the day. And because of this, he also helped cure Shaftesbury of his liver complaint, earning his lifelong gratitude. And the status quo, if you remember, kung babalikan niyo yung una kong sinabi kanina, the status quo, napaka-conservative ng mga lipunan noon or ng lipunan in general noon. Why? Because the first question Locke argued, he was so fascinated by, was what to do with people who don't agree with their religious views. And for him, sabi ko nga sa inyo, in the breaking of the Catholic Church under Henry the VIII ruling in the 16th century, the most proliferating religion that time was Protestantism, and because of this, um, Henry the VIII was one of the most cruel kings during that time, and conservatism was the trend. So ang ginagawa niya noon, kung ikaw ay isang taong hindi naniniwala sa religion, dadakitin ka agad. Worse, you'll be killed or you will be jailed for what you don't believe in or if you don't believe in religion. And because of this, John Locke wanted to question that. Parang sabi niya, wait lang, there's something wrong with that, no? Parang hindi naman yun, hindi naman yun, that's not fair in essence. So he became one of the foremost advocates of freedom, and he had written in his very beautiful essay, which is concerning toleration. And he had three main arguments. Sabi, na-notice nga niya na majority of people were so fixated with this idea that if you don't have a religion, if you don't have belief, you must be either put into jail or you must be, um, uh, punished. But for him, he had three arguments. First argument is that you can't you can't impose a rule that would dictate a person's belief because earthly judges, the state in particular, and human beings in general cannot dependably evaluate the truth claims of competing religious standpoints. That's the first argument. What he means by this is that if you allow for a certain religious group to put themselves out there and say na, okay, ito dapat paniwalaan mo at kung hindi ka maniniwala dito, the truth will, ito lang yung truth na pwede mo paniwalaan, then you'll be condemned for it. That's wrong. Second, even if they could enforce this single true religion, this would not work because you cannot be compelled into belief through violence. That's basic, right? So if someone forces you, coerces you, di ba? Forces, coerces, pero lang yung pinipilit kang maniwala sa isang bagay without your consent, and that's already violating what your own freedom of choice and belief for that matter. And lastly, coercing religious uniformity would lead to a far more social disorder than allowing it for diversity. So these three main arguments, in the essence of John Locke's ideology, paved the way for what natural law would be shaped. So si St. Thomas Aquinas, di ba, ang natural law para sa kanya, human beings have an inherent conscience and morality that depende sa kanilang choices and behavior. They would become rational thinkers or rational decision makers that makes them be able to distinguish what is right from wrong. That's basic. We have already learned that from the previous lesson we had for St. Thomas Aquinas. But Locke argued that the ultimate aim of the state was to preserve the quiet and comfortable living of men in society, but that it had nothing to do with the good of men's soul. Because if this was the basis of morality, then it's going to be problematic. Why? A lot of people would argue, 'di ba, na if your rights are being violated and if you cannot run to the government because they're the ones who are supposed to be giving you those rights, right? So paano kung hindi mo makuha sa kanila yun? So there's going to be a big problem. And because of this, religion, according to John Locke, religion is supposed to be a personal choice, and churches are voluntary organizations which could set their own rules and of course be left to it those rules, no? So ang problema dito is that John Locke is trying to say, hey, if you want to believe in something, go ahead, but you can't force me to believe in something if I don't want to, and worse, you can't put me into jail or you can't punish me if I don't believe in what you believe in. So the point is, because of this influence, it was thanks to him that the idea of locking people up for their beliefs fell completely out of favor. In fact, even in our constitution itself, you cannot be um, jailed or you cannot be punished just because of your political, your religious, or your own social beliefs. So ito na yung buong point ng argument ni John Locke. In that time of heavy reliance of people towards religion, most scholars would say that the idea of John Locke is forward too forward thinking, masyado daw progressive. And the idea that it is too progressive would also pose it, or would also give us this notion that he might be um, too absolute in his ideologies. Ngayon, kinalaban siya ng idea ni Thomas Hobbes. In fact, he had written a famous philosophy and political theory. First is Essay Concerning Human Understanding, and second is the Two Treatises of Government, respectively. Now, actually, the most important aspect of his two essays was in the Two Treatises of Government. The first treaty, simple lang, sabi niya, he judged actually the patriarchal view of society. Sabi niya, hindi pwedeng may ruler and then yun na. The rest would just follow without demanding something from their ruler. That's the first treaty that he wanted to say. And second treaty is that, deriving this premise from the idea of Thomas Hobbes later on kasi magka-argue siya. Yung sinasabi niya is that there needs to be a fundamental right regardless of who you are. Peasant ka man, king ka man, noble ka man, nandiyan ka lang sa gilid. You have this fundamental right. And tatlo yun: life, liberty, and property. So, these two treaties, as he had written it, he published it as an essay for people to read and for ano tawag dito? For people to understand and for governments to follow. In fact, sabi niya, true original. An essay concerning the true original extent and end of a civil government. Sabi niya ganun. Now, of course, he was challenged by this. He was questioned for this. He was being debated because of this. Punta natin si Thomas Hobbes. Ito kasi yung idea ni Thomas Hobbes. Sabi niya, okay lang daw magkaroon ng totalitarian society because that's the state of nature. Sabi niya, normal lang yun. Diba? So, for John Locke, sabi niya, hindi naman. Actually, leaders like this, no, or leaders who have some sort of dictator mindset in them, according to Thomas Hobbes, ay natural way of life daw yun. But for Saint Tho- for John Locke, sabi niya, hindi. Ito kasi yung point ni Thomas Hobbes. If you paint the state of nature in their darkest colors, you would ask your readers that even if they are dictators, they are a decent ruler. Anything better than the savagery of the Stone Age was legitimate, and rulers have no responsibility to guarantee the religious freedom or human rights because that's the way of nature. But sabi ni John Locke, mali yun pare. Hindi pwedeng ganun na lang basta-basta na kapag may niluklok ka sa posisyon, sila na ang hahawak sa buhay mo and wala ka nang pwedeng i-demand from them. Because for John Locke, he agreed first that before government, there would been a state of nature. There would have been a a way of life already, that there are hunter gatherers, there are hierarchy. But he also disagreed what this place would actually have been like, because he argued that it would have been broadly peaceful, and that in agreeing to submit to governments, submit pala yun, no? Sorry, to submit to governments, people have therefore not fearfully agreed to surrender all their rights. Ibig sabihin, a totalitarian rule is actually very problematic for John Locke. Sabi niya, these kinds of leaders who show dictatorial or some sort of totalitarian aspect, hindi sila maganda na leaders. Why? Because they only allow you to have limited rights. So, that is actually a very problematic standpoint. Kaya niya ginawa yung kanyang famous na fundamental rights na sabi niya, naturally, there are three things that your government must give you: your right to life, liberty, and property. And he argued that if it is not given to you, you can be justifiably overthrowing your state. Pansinin niyo na lang. It's because of our struggles, the struggles of our ancestors, that we are free today, right? Kung hindi dinemanda ng ating mga ancestors yung kanilang right to life, liberty, and property, we would have been still slaves until now, right? Can you imagine the impact of not demanding for these fundamental rights? How much more today that we clamor for more rights, especially that they are taken away from us. Life, for example. In the Philippines, we have been experiencing many extrajudicial killings. That is a deprivation of life. Why are they called extrajudicial? Because you are now removing the judicial process of an accused, diba? Or of detaining an accused. Why? If you put a barrel of a gun as now, if you put the sentence of a person via a barrel of a gun, you have extrajudicially, killed that person. What do you mean? Hindi mo na sinunod yung judicial process. Ibig sabihin, tinanggalan mo na agad ng right to life because you literally murdered that person or killed that person. Liberty. There are people who are deprived of their liberty. Especially yung mga common crimes dyan would be when you are illegally detained, or when you're kidnapped, when you are forcibly di ba? Or abducted, yung mga forcible abduction, yan, di ba? So, yan yung mga crimes against liberty. Property, ang dami. Mga magnanakaw, di ba? Theft, robbery, all of these crimes against property are also against the fundamental right of people to own things. So Locke and his successors often now refer to these three main not properties, three main rights as natural rights rather than to what natural law. Thus, syempre, si Thomas Aquinas kasi medyo religious ang kanyang forwarding, di ba? So, di ba meron siyang divine providence, practical rationality. Si John Locke naman, sakto lang. Sabi niya, let's make it secular. Let's not involve God anymore. So, for John Locke, he inspired actually the American Revolution to write their Declaration of Independence. In fact, Thomas Jefferson said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident." Take note as self-evident, that men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. What we call inalienable, paano tawag doon? Hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin. You cannot make it alien against them, no? That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Can you imagine? Nilagdag lang ni Thomas Jefferson yung isa dyan, no? Pursuit of happiness. But it's fundamental that if you cannot give these rights to people, then your authority can be questioned already. Isn't it interesting now, ladies and gentlemen, as my students in ethics, you try to review what is happening now in the country. If you think you are deprived of these rights and your leaders are not doing anything, for them to be given to you, what do you call those leaders? Diba? Are they selfless leaders or are they self-serving leaders? Are they only serving themselves? Recent news would tell us that medyo hati ngayon, di ba? Ang mga opinions when it comes to the chaos that is happening in the Senate, the the political warfare, if I might call it, no, that is happening now in the entire Philippines because syempre may mga pro this person and then pro this politician. I'm not gonna name names na lang, but you know what I mean. The problem nowadays is that we are so um desensitized, or worse, we do not care about these natural rights that we tend to just say na okay lang yun. Wala nang pakialam dyan sa mga nangyayari dyan. And what's the problem? In fact, majority of people would argue that actually hindi lang 'to sila Thomas Jefferson, 'di ba? Actually si Rizal, isa sa mga pioneers din ng liberal thoughts sa Philippines, right? He fundamentally had given us this opportunity to understand what our rights are supposed to be, 'di ba? And these rights are supposed to be fundamentally given to us. Anong ginawa niya? Nagsulat siya ng novel, 'di ba? Si Jose Rizal. He tried to question the authority of the Spanish people and he inspired many generations. Actually, in fact, he inspired the revolution. He gave rise to the national consciousness of Filipinos. And these rights, as Thomas Jefferson and John Locke would argue, are supposed to be naturally given to all. Kaya nga po, ang buong point nitong natural law by John Locke is nakapalaganap dito sa natural rights. So, for John Locke, morality is by definition a set of rules, an obligatory set of rules, because it reflects the will of a superior authority. Someone gives it, someone must follow it. But also, Locke takes stock of what constitutes law in order to establish this legalistic framework for morality. Ano ibig sabihin nun? If you cannot follow the structure by John Locke, I mean, sinasabi niya, dinedemand niya na ang society ay ganito dapat. First, law must be founded on the will of a superior. It is given by a superior force, not necessarily God, but in order for you to fully understand what morality is for John Locke, he simply wants to tell us that my understanding of the will of a superior is this, that he who shall be granting these rights know that fundamental yung rights na yun. So kapag hindi niya binibigay mga yun, hindi siya yung superior. Di ba? So kung ang leader mo ay ayaw ibigay ang basic right to life, kung gumagawa siya, for example, ng policy against right to life, di ba? Extrajudicial killings, war on drugs, maybe that leader is not a superior leader. Second, it must perform the function of establishing rules of behavior. Simple, because these rules of behavior are what people should follow. And if their fundamental rights are followed, they must also follow their government kasi it's a give and take relationship. And lastly, it must be binding on all humans since there is a duty of compliance owed to the superior authority that would institute those laws. Simply put, John Locke is trying to tell us that if you cannot follow simple rules that is given by the will of the superior, then of course your morality can be questioned. Why? Ang dami nangyayari ngayon, di ba? We impose rules instead of complying first, we automatically complain. Or for example, um, gumagawa naman ng rules pero para lang sa certain group of individuals, para lang sa mga elites, para lang sa mga may kaya, or kayang i-bend, di ba? Uso yung term niya, bend the law, or kayang i-circumvent, or takasan, or bayaran. Is that binding on all humans? Of course not. So, I would like to also relate the essence of John Locke's idea of tabula rasa, or what he calls now blank slate or clean slate. According to John Locke, all of our thoughts are not gained or are not automatic, I should say. When you are born into this world, wala talaga laman yung utak mo. And you need to have sense experience before you acquire knowledge. And what are our senses? Simple, di ba? Sense of sight, di ba? Sense of touch, sense of hearing, taste, di ba? Smell, yan. So, usually, you will learn something because of your senses, di ba? For example, paano mo nalaman? Nakita ko nga eh. Ano ba? Nakita. Sight. Paano mo nasabi? Meme yun. Narinig ko, eh, 'di ba? Hearing, sense of hearing. How do you know that it's good? Natikman ko, eh, 'di ba? So these are senses that would help you understand, gain knowledge. And for John Locke, you as a human being has a clean slate before you acquire knowledge. In fact, when you are learning, as you, di ba, sa psychology yan, as you are progressing from being a child to an adolescent, a child, pre-adolescent to an adolescent, to an adult, di ba? May progress yan, no? You learn by your experiences. And on his view, ideas come to us either by senses and reflection. And these two means this view is the cornerstone of his they call this, sorry, empiricism, of what they call now empiricism. According to this theory, there's no such thing as innate ideas or ideas that are inborn, because you have to first experience them via your own senses while you're reflecting on them. I often tell my students, anong tawag mo sa taong pumapasok sa pintuan na nauntog? At pag lumabas sa same na pintuan na yun at nauntog ulit, anong tawag sa taong yun? Some of my students would say tanga, or something worse. But the answer to that is, ang tawag sa taong pumasok sa pintuan, nauntog ng una, at lumabas ulit sa pintuang nauntog ulit, ay hindi natuto. Di ba? Because na-experience na eh. Nauntog na siya. And then lumabas siya, nauntog ulit. Wala siyang natutunan doon, di ba? So hindi siya natuto. So for John Locke, ganoon lang din ang ating mga ideas. It does not come from us naturally, because it must be experienced first before you can have it as knowledge. And all ideas come by experience. And he describes this as the great source of all our ideas, and wholly dependent on the contact between our sensory organs and what the external world, I should say, presents to us. And for John Locke, it is the it is sorry clear that most people do not understand their moral duty in any deep or robust way, because they don't want the practical side of it. They don't want to work on it. You know? Ayaw nila experience yung mga bagay na yun. And so anong challenge? To really know then your moral duty is to be a moral agent, John Locke would argue. Because moral knowledge is something gained only through rational discovery. And as a person who, sige, I just want to relate, no? I'm already in my late 20s. Feels scary sometimes, no? I'm at this point in time, as I am recording this video lecture, I'm already 27. And if you say, did I learn a lot na from my life? Well, I can say yes, but you know, I learned from experiences, di ba? Like they always say, the experience is the best teacher, right? If I haven't learned from my experiences, then siguro sayang yung existence ko for 27 years already into this forsaken world, as what I want to say, no? Now, as I'm entering in a new chapter of my life, I'm still a teacher, but I'm also now multitasking by being a law student, and by doing gigs on the side. Dami ko natututunan because of experiences that I would never even thought of if I didn't experience them. Di ba? For example, basta experiences, may it be personal, may it be with a friend, may it be with a group of friends, experiences would really teach us anything. Experience, as they would always say, is the best teacher. And I'm glad, actually, for you guys. No? I'm excited more for you guys na, syempre, you're in your early 20s, di ba? Or patapos pa lang kayo sa teenager years ninyo. Marami pa kayong may experience. I'm pretty sure. The world is so big. The world has so much to offer to you. And what John Locke is trying to tell us, these experiences would bring about our own idea of why our morality is also dependent upon our experiences. Because there is some sort of truth, that knowledge, of which man can attain by himself without the help of another, if he makes proper use the faculties he's endowed with by nature, to quote John Locke. So what's the point of John Locke in the understanding of our lesson when it comes to ethics, especially when it comes to our rights? Essentially, if your government cannot give you the natural rights that is being pondered upon by John Locke, life, liberty, and property, then your government is already a failing government. you can oust that government. You can overthrow that government. Because if they cannot give you those fundamental rights, you have the ability or you have the right to question them. And that is also supposed to be the basis of your morality. If you cannot give the basic right to your kapwa, di ba? Yung sasabi natin sa Pilipino, to your kapwa, to your fellow men. If you cannot respect the right of life of a person, if you cannot respect the right of their right to liberty and their right to property, and even their right to the pursuit of happiness, then there might be something wrong with you, or your ethics might be questioned. I would like to focus on the latter part, no, yung pursuit of happiness. Why do we oftentimes hate it when people post about their, achievements? Or not all, some, di ba? Ang natural na sagot would be inggit, di ba? Inggit lang yan, kaya binabash, no? The underlying question I should say is, why do we hate so much when people are pursuing their happiness? Maybe because we are so busy judging them pursuing their own happiness that we cannot already pursue our own happiness. And that's the problem. 'Di ba? Doon nag-stem out ang inggit, envy. Doon nag-stem out ang um, over patronizing others, or what Filipinos would call crab mentality, 'di ba? Isa sa mga pinaka problematic, uh, egregious, or what became brutal no attitudes of Filipinos. How can we reflect when it comes to ethics, when it comes to the understanding of John Locke? May good news, 'di ba? Hindi pa huli. It's not yet the end for us as students of ethics. 'Di ba? To prove to the world, or to prove to actually to yourself na lang to begin with. To prove it to yourself that you are a good person, ask yourself, am I granting myself my right to life, liberty, and property? If I deprive it on myself, that will be a problem. 'Di ba? Or for example, am I also depriving it for others? Am I respecting their life? Am I respecting their liberty? Am I respecting their property? Or singit natin yung last, no? Yung dinagdag dito, Thomas Jefferson. Am I respecting their pursuit of happiness? Then, if yes, you're probably a very ethical person. If no, you might question your ethics for that matter. Take a look at this picture right here. Let's try to reflect on this. This is a very something to ponder on. That is a person's life taken away from him. And then in order for us to fully grasp, that's only one person. During the war on drugs, there were thousands of people whose lives, some of them innocent, diba, were lost. How do we reflect on these types of situations? Where do we side when our ability to our right, I should say, our ability to respect our right to life, liberty, and property is just thrown out of the door? Think again, ladies and gentlemen. That's just one aspect. Actually, that's the reason why human rights are established. How does natural law affect actually our natural rights, diba? Our human rights. In fact, Cicero um, later on would ponder more on this. Sabi niya dapat equal lahat. Actually, there is now what we call the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, if you would know, right? And there are 30 articles, diba? That needs to protect these fundamental rights of people, because it's a milestone document in the history of human rights. It was drafted by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all over the world. And this declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris in 1948 as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and of all nations. And take note, we are a member, I should say, of the United Nations, and we are supposed to follow this Declaration of Human Rights. Now, there are 30 articles. We will not make them one by one na, no? Hindi natin isa-isahin. But these articles would prove to us that kinailangan natin pang mag-struggle in order for us to put these rights to people. And if you allow a person to degrade the rights of people, then that's a violation already of their fundamental right of a human right, I should say. In fact, our former president is being tried because of violating crimes against humanity. 'Di ba? Because he pursued a very lawless, a very violent type of law that would unleash this extrajudicial killings that has happened in the past 10 decade na pala, no? In the past decade. Grabe, no? Nag-start yun in 2016. It's now 2026. Anyway, so as before we finish, I'd just like to point more about Cicero, Marcus Tullius Cicero, born as a wealthy from a wealthy land-owning family. He was so fascinated with law and rhetoric, and because he was watching people who were public speaking, who were writers under in the Roman era. And as a young man, he witnessed many great orators, and he was inspired by this avenue to deliver ideas. In fact, he had written two main books, which is The Laws and the Republic. Hango din siya sa The Republic ni Plato. And he wrote on papyrus scrolls. Imagine yung papyrus, or papyrus ba ito? Papyrus. And published his writings by using the common practice of having slaves copy them, which was not idealistically pleasing nung mga panahon na yun because hindi naman available ang mga libro sa mga peasants nung time na yun. But however, in these two books, he wanted to restore the Republic in its uncorrupted and truest form, which he believed had existed many generations even before him. This is funny because thousands of years ago, there was already a turmoil in Rome, and he understood na problema yun. So he wanted to um, remind people na wait lang, hindi yan dapat ang nangyayari. So he intended to persuade good and honorable men to participate actively in public affairs. Politics, as he would argue, was the most honorable of all professions. Take note of this, huh? Now, try to relate it to what's happening now in the world, especially in the Philippines. Are our politicians the most honorable of men? I don't think so. His ideas were actually not new. He was relying much on Greek and Roman writings, which later on were lost, but because of his ideologies, he gave us a fundamental aspect of understanding our laws. For him, first, law is the highest reason, implanted in nature, which commands what ought to be done and forbids the opposite. Think of this again. If you write laws that is fundamentally for people, that's okay. But pag gumagawa ka ng laws na para lang sa'yo or para lang sa certain group of people, then of course that's problematic. Thus, natural law is the guide for the right and wrong in human affairs. Do you not realize that the idea of creating policies is based upon, di ba, the political spectrum or based on the beliefs of the leader. So, balikan natin yung spectrum kina left or right, no? So kung left-leaning ka, so kung left ka mag-isip, kung liberal ka mag-isip, yung policies mo liberal din. Ibig sabihin, you think there's something wrong with the status quo, you challenge the status quo. Kung right ka mag-isip or kung masyado ka namang conservative, di ba? Then of course, what you would say is there's nothing wrong with the status quo. You need to maintain the status quo. Regardless if you are a conservative or a liberal, if you create laws, it's supposed to be binding to all. And it must be reasonable. Since, nakalagay dyan, reason is certainly common to us all. He even asserts that the law in nature is eternal, unchangeable, binding at all times upon all people. And he warned that it was never morally right for humans to make laws that would intentionally violate natural law. Example would be excessive funds or being too corrupt. Is that natural? Of course not. Why would you elect a person who has, a position and then later on, madami pa siyang gagawing kabalastugan or, you know, kab kababalaghan, di ba? Pagdating sa kanyang duty. In fact, he would even emphasize, without laws, he reasoned, there can be no state of or government. That's very correct. More importantly, he would even continue, there must be equality under the law with no special exceptions. In fact, he would call this as the egalitarian principle. Di ba? Type ko lang dito, egalitarian um, principle or doctrine, di ba? Which presupposes that the world or society must be for all. Okay? Equal. Liberty pa nga must be for all. Because if liberty is not equally enjoyed by all citizens, he declared, it is not liberty at all. Diba? Imagine. It's very much important hanggang ngayon. Therefore, liberty cannot exist unless the people have the supreme power in government. And that's very much important nowadays. There's a quote, no, a legal Latin maxim that would say, Salus populi est suprema lex. Ganda nun, no? Favorite namin yun ng friend ko. Salus populi est suprema lex. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. Diba? Isipin niyo lang yun. Kung ikaw ay isang leader at iniisip mo ang kapakanan mo bago ang mga pinagsisilbihan mo, anong tawag sa'yo? Ikaw na mag-isip ko ng sagot dyan. Pero alam mo yan. Pero kung ikaw ay isang leader na iniisip muna ang kapakanan ng iyong mga pinagsisilbihan, anong tawag sa'yo leader? Again, ikaw ulit makakapag-isip lang yan. No? So the whole point of Cicero, therefore, is if you want to be ruled by rule of law, follow a equal government. Follow an egalitarian government. But if you want to be ruled by chaos, good luck na lang sa'yo. If you think that the best people to serve are those who are, you know, unreliable, selfish, inuuna ang sarili, wala. In fact, I would like to quote him even. He said, there is indeed no uglier kind of state than one which the richest men are thought to be the best. Di ba? Hanggang ngayon, importante. Sinabi yan thousands of years ago. Until today, it's very much important. It's very much consistent throughout the years. It's simple, ladies and gentlemen. What John Locke and what Cicero is trying to tell us couldn't be more relevant ngayon. Why? Kasi ngayon siya very much applicable. Especially what is happening now in our country. A lot of people get away with what they're doing just because they are rich. Diba? A lot of people are enjoying na tinatapakan nila ang rights ng ibang tao just because they can do it, just because they have money, just because they are too powerful, just because they are protected by those who are supposed to be protecting the people. Diba? Like humihingi ng protective custody, whatever that means. Diba? I mean, meron naman daw ganun sa batas, but I'm a law student and that protective custody is not supposed to be, liberally construed. Kasi mamaya isipin na, okay na pala, okay pala maging senator. Kahit may krimen ako, kahit may warrant ako, tago na lang ako sa Senado. Diba? That's one of the most essential attributions of why this is important. And recently, there have been reports as well that crimes against life, crimes against liberty, and crimes against property are lumalaki pa rin, no? Hanggang ngayon. So there's a challenge. How can you now navigate the intricacies of natural law and follow the fundamental rights and still become moral? Yun na yung magiging buong challenge natin later on as we go on. In fact, this would be a separate lesson because the Bill of Rights in the Philippine Constitution actually is where this is where our rights were actually garnered upon or based upon. Human rights, even political rights, constitutional, statutory rights, even the rights of the accused, di ba? Pag-uusapan natin lahat yan. And finally, we will also try to talk about a universalist exegesis, sabi, and its ideological distinctions from particularism and cultural relativism. This is actually a research by Diane Discerto. I know these words are very deep. These words are very highfalutin, but we will himay-himayin natin yan during our lecture next meeting. Okay? So, whenever we try now to understand our lesson, hindi pa to ang tapos kasi separate pa tong lesson, no? This would end this lecture for today. I hope you have learned something and I don't know how many minutes I've been talking now, but pwede niyo akong i-times 2 kung gusto niyo, no? Anyway, nasa inyo naman yung PowerPoint. I'll stop sharing this first. I just want to remind everyone that this video lecture is only a supplemental aspect on your reviewing. So it's hindi to yung actual meat ng inyong so basahin niyo pa rin yung lesson, mag-research pa rin kayo yung mga this is just supposed to be supplementary or suppletory to your reviewing. And of course, as we finish this subject, kasi finals na tayo by June 9, I hope you can use this as learning, not only for perfecting the quiz, not only for answering the exam, but to actually use it in your everyday lives, to reflect upon what your morality is. Tinitignan ko na kayo ngayon ha. Ayan, nakatitig na ako sa inyo ngayon because this is very much important. Makalimutan niyo man ako. Kalimutan niyo man yung mga pinagsamahan natin. Huwag niyo lang makalimutan yung mga lessons na natutunan niyo dito. I'll be very much thankful already that you have been able to use it in your everyday aspect of life. So with that, I'll end this video and I'll see you face to face on our meeting. And yeah, whatever time you're watching this, good morning, good noon, good afternoon, or good evening, or good night. And mag-subscribe kayo ha. Bye.